Minister Bambang Brodjonegoro, Minister of National Planning. I would like to ask Honorable Minister Bambang Brodjonegoro, Minister of Planning, National Planning, to give the first opening remarks, please.
Okay. Thank you very much for the invitation and opportunity to speak in the Asia Pacific Conference on Tobacco or Health. Given limited time, let me try to summarize what I have prepared for a presentation. So clearly, government of Indonesia has shown a strong commitment to implement the Sustainable Development Goals. And we already have presidential decree to support the activity related to the SDGs. And related to today's topic, I would say that tobacco control agenda is a way to accelerate the SDGs achievement in Indonesia. So in other words, without strong, serious tobacco control, it will be very hard or almost impossible to achieve some goals in among the 17 goals of the SDGs. So of course, one goal that will be very much related to the SDG regarding the tobacco would be goal number 3, good health and well-being. And certainly with that goal, we have to take care of the health issue. But I think my colleague, Minister of Health, will elaborate more on this goal. I will discuss actually a bit more on the other side of the tobacco issues, the non-health issues. First of all, when we do the tobacco product control, then the impacts would be we can do better allocation of resource for productive consumption. And that will relate to goal number 1 and goal number 2, poverty and hunger. And then we can reduce the risk of that, and we can also reduce the negative impact of tobacco products on health and productivity. That will relate to goal number 3, 4, 5, 8, and 10. And of course, when we already create the environment that is free from waste and pollution that partly created by the tobacco related activities, then we will deal with goal number 6, 7, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And then, of course, we need to support the labor-intensive industrial development and industries that contribute to national health and welfare of the people. Don't forget, the big issue about tobacco control is the existence of the labor-intensive industries and job opportunities. If we can deal very well with this issue, then we can fulfill goal number 9. And then, of course, we need to support the development of various holistic and integrative policies dealing with the tobacco issues. That will deal with goal number 16 and 17. Please move to the next page. Next page, please. Yeah. No. Page number 5. Yeah. So basically, all 17 goals of SDGs, one or the other, has relation with the tobacco control or the effort to reduce the negative impact of smoking. Of course, one of the bigger issues that has raised during the keynote would be the impact to the youth. And we have one of the young speakers over here. And we can see that Indonesia already has the situation in which trend of prevalence of smoking among persons less than 18 years old is continuing. In 2016, it's only 8.8%. So 8.8% of the people aged less than 18 years old smoking. Only 8.8% in 2016. In 2019, predicted will be increasing to 10.7%. And if we do not do anything, and we just do business as usual, following the trend, 2024 it will be almost 15%, and 2030 it will be 16%. And of course, it won't be good for the case of Indonesia, in which we are experiencing the demographic bonus. Our young productive population will be in danger, because then if 16% of them is smoking, then of course they are exposed to the health issue, and their productivity could be less, and once their productivity is less, then their contribution to economic growth will also be less. And then we have other issues that I think will be elaborated more with by Minister of Health, that I think around 36.3% population aged higher than 15 years smoking or chewing tobacco. And clearly from the health perspective, tobacco is a risk factor for cause of death and disability. Number 2 for males and number 8 for females. And then death and disability from non-communicable disease are increasing related to the smoking behavior. And then this is the topic that I really like. The highest proportion of smokers in the poorest population, 27.3%, where cigarette consumption in the poorest household is one of the largest household expenditure. So according to the Social and Economic Survey that released twice every year, in March and in September, in the poorest household, both in the rural and urban area, that family, that household, spends for cigarettes just right after the rice. So for example, in the rural area, in the poorest household, they spend almost 26% for rice, which is reasonable, because rice is our staple food. I mean, in Indonesia, you cannot feel full if you don't eat rice. So this is the staple food. But number 2, right after the rice, is cigarette, 11%. Number 3, eggs. Number 4 is instant noodle, and number 5 is chicken meat. So you can imagine that in majority of poor household in Indonesia, they spend, of course, for the rice, but the most needed type of food, of course with quote and unquote here, is cigarette. So they don't eat rice with egg, but they eat rice with cigarette. And of course, this is very ironic. And don't forget, this is for poor household. And you can imagine 11% of their spending is for cigarette. So, and then they are not the high income family. Let's say their income only, let's take the 1 million rupiah every month, meaning they spend almost or more than 100,000 rupiah just for smoking. And this family, because they are the lowest income group in Indonesia, they are eligible for government support. We have the program called conditional cash transfer. And why it's called conditional? Because the government will transfer the cash to the family if, for example, the children, they go to school full-time, so they have to attend the school full-time. If the mother is pregnant, then the mother needs to check regularly at the local clinics, and other types of conditionality. But I think after many years of implementation of this conditional cash transfer, I then realized that we miss one very important condition. I think one additional condition that has to be added to the program will have to say that every family member of any household that receives this conditional cash transfer cannot spend any rupiah for cigarette. And we do not enforce that until now. And then in one press conference, I tried to raise the issue. I raised the issue that, and every media, is excited and they quote my statement that government, it's just my statement, government is planning to create the new condition in which every recipient cannot spend the cash for the cigarette. And I checked the reaction from the social media, and I'm glad and I'm relieved basically, because nobody opposed the idea. So it means that we need to further process the idea into the formal implementation led by the Ministry of Social Affairs. And of course, the other issue with the poor family, the highest proportion of smoker, unfortunately, is in the poorest population. So in the richest population, the smokers is only around 19.5%, the richest one. The richest family, while the poorest one, 27.3. So, of course, one of conclusion, if we can get rid of the smoking habits in the poor family, then basically we can speed up, we can accelerate the poverty reduction. So, tobacco control will have the impact on acceleration of the acceleration of the poverty reduction. Last but not least, my institution, National Development Planning Agency, now is preparing the next 5 years plan. Certainly, we will mainstream the SDGs, and we will do our best to mainstream this tobacco control into our 5 years plan. And that will cover many things. From production side, we have to make sure that we can maintain the production of the tobacco itself, and the manufacturing. We have to make sure that we don't have the ambition to increase the production of the cigarettes. We have some irony in the government, in bureaucracy, when everybody trying to make their 5 years plan by every ministry. Every unit in the ministry, of course, will say that we will increase the production by this much and this much. Of course, the higher the better, right? Because you are a bureaucrat and you are bound by the target. Unfortunately, we always miss that one unit in the Ministry of Industry dealing with the tobacco industry always say that they will increase the production of cigarette every year, every 5 years. And the increase is quite big. Why? Because if you are in the position of director dealing with the tobacco industry, then you will see around everybody trying to say, I will increase the production by 10%, 20%, 30%, and you don't want to say, I will reduce the production by either 10% or 20%. You will try to be the same as others, because the criteria is by the unit of production. So we hope that in the next 5 years plan, we will communicate with Ministry of Industry. For other type of products, please do as usual. Use total production, output of production as indicators. But for cigarette, please use the value. Why don't the director say, I will increase the value of the the tobacco or cigarette industry by this percent. And you know the value, right? Value is multiplication of price and quantity. It means, at the same time, you have to reduce the quantity. It means you have to increase the price. When you have to increase the price, it will be related to the excise tax policy. So we hope we can try to accommodate this, because otherwise they will have no clue how can they say about their target. But if we put the target of the value with the condition that quantity has to be decreased, then it means they will have to work hard to increase the price. And when they are trying to increase the price, I think everybody might agree that's the best way actually to reduce the possibility of the cigarette consumption, especially for the youth, for the poor families, as well as for the women. Because whenever the price of the cigarette is quite affordable, is quite cheap, then the tendency to reduce the consumption will not be there. So we need to focus ourselves on the price issue. And last but not least, one of the issues that, because I've been dealing with the issue of the tobacco since I was in finance ministry, dealing with the excise tax, we never have, I think, a comprehensive strategy about either exit strategy or alternative strategy for tobacco and the cigarette industry itself. With tobacco, of course, you're dealing with the farmers. When you are dealing with the farmers, maybe the alternative strategy would be how we can divert the tobacco farmers to grow other commodities, to have business in other commodities and trying to reduce their tobacco product. Of course, the price of tobacco might be, tempting, but now in Indonesia, everybody's now trying to grow coffee and other type of horticulture, fruits and vegetables. So I think the best way is from the agriculture side, how to provide the diversification for the tobacco farmers. The more difficult one will be the cigarette industry. The bigger issue always the labor, because still part of the cigarette industry is labor-intensive industry. So in this case, we need to think about how to provide job opportunities for the laborers that now part of the cigarette industry. Of course, we need to improve their skill, number one. And number two, we need to provide the job opportunities for them. Otherwise, from political point of view, it won't be popular if, let's say, some cigarette industry simply close their product and stop the production and let the people unemployed. So we need to find the alternative. And then for the cigarette industry itself, for the businessmen themselves, I'm observing now some of the big cigarette industry in Indonesia trying to diversify the product. I believe to some extent they understand, they realize this cigarette industry is sunset industry. So they try to divert into many other sectors in the business area. But still, because the profitability of the cigarette industry is quite high, they don't want maybe to leave the cigarette industry 100%. It means that we need to encourage all the businessmen now related to the cigarette industry to diversify their business as much as possible from now, because then we can tell them, you better for the sunset industry. You don't want yourself to be trapped in the sunset industry, so why don't you start by diversifying your business, going into food and beverage, going into textile industry, going into machinery industry, going for other things. Now the digital economy is also booming, so why don't you shift some of your energy, some of your capital for this kind of business. So I think the issue of exit strategy or alternative strategy for both tobacco and cigarette is very critical if we want to really pursue the idea of reducing the cigarette consumption in Indonesia as well as in any other developing countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Brodjonegoro.